I fasted 40 days and my wife changed. And no, I wasn't fasting for her to change. Yes, I was also fasting for my marriage too, not necessarily for her or for me, but because we were having conflict that was continuous. And so God put me on a fast, and originally the fast was supposed to be from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It was a 3-day fast. When I got to Sunday, which I thought was the last day of the fast, God said, you're going to fast until next Sunday. And so the 3-day fast turned into a 7-day fast. When I get to the following Sunday, God said, you're going to go until next month on the 15th. And now I'm thinking like, Lord, like, come on now, like, what are you doing? But at the end of the day, I made peace with it, because if God was calling me to this fast, then I had to change my focus on what I would gain more than what I would lose. And so during this 40 days, I would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I would pray for hours. I would go to work, I would get off work, I would go back into prayer for hours. I spent a lot of time in the Word, I spent a lot of time in prayer, I spent a lot of time just seeking God and just surrendering myself to God. And during this time, there were moments where my wife was throwing a fit. She felt like she was being neglected. She felt like certain ways I wasn't showing up for her. And it really was frustrating me, because I want to be there for my wife how she wants me to be, but I also want to be obedient and submit to this fast how God is calling me to submit. And so I remember praying, I remember crying out to God one night. I'm like, Lord, all I want to do is what you told me to do. And God said to me, just like Nehemiah told Sanballat, Geshem, and Tobiah, God said, why must the work cease that you come down to her? He said, you keep doing what I told you to do, and I'll deal with her. I still loved on her. I still showed her attention. I still showed her affection, but I was busy still. I still had to work, and I still had to do my daily functions. But when I wasn't working and doing some of the things that I needed to do so our house could operate like it's supposed to, during this 40 days, I would say 85% of my time was either spent in the Word, spent in worship, or spent in prayer. I was like Jacob. I was going to wrestle with God until he spoke to me, until he gave me clarity, until he did something that changed something that was happening in my life. I would say probably about 3 days after the fast, my wife came to me and she apologized. She apologized for some things that had went on during the fast, some things that had went on in the last 6 months, some things that had went on in the last year, or even since we was married. Like, she apologized for so many different things. And I would say probably the first 20 days after the fast, she apologized at least 10 of those days. And I got to the point where I'm like, babe, you ain't got to apologize. Like, this stuff, I wasn't holding it against you. Yes, it was affecting me, but a lot of the things that she was apologizing for was ways that I felt, but I never articulated to her. But because I submitted to God, because I submitted to the fast, because I stayed the course, even when it got hard, even when it got frustrating, even when it looked like my own house was in disarray, God dealt with my wife, and she apologized to me day after day after day after day. And after it was all said and done, after the apologies finally subsided, my wife was a whole new person. When she was in her feelings or she was upset, she articulated herself in a healthy way to let me know how I was affecting her. She no longer projected her feelings onto me. I saw my wife getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, 5:30 in the morning, so she could read her word, so she can get into the presence of God. I watched my wife be more intentional about her love and her support from me. Like, my wife became a whole new woman. There were so many times that I realized that doing this new version of her, that I was expecting the old response, that I was expecting her to show up like she used to, and having that expectation for her to do that, when she met me with something different, like, it blew my mind. I continuously encouraged her and continuously had to tell her out loud, like, baby, you different. Baby, you handle your emotions different. I see you feel some type of way and you regulate your emotions better. The way that you've been doing self-care and sewing into yourself, the way that you have been intentional about you, I can see that same intentionality and that love towards me. Like, baby, I love that for you. I love that for us. I fasted for 40 days. and my wife changed. We was having some of the same conflict over and over and over and over again. And God took me to the scripture where the disciples went to Jesus because they tried to cast out a demon, but they couldn't cast this demon out. And so they called Jesus to come cast out the demon out of this man. And Jesus cast the demon out. And the disciples said to Jesus, why weren't we able to cast this demon out? And Jesus replied to the disciples, he said, some things only go by fasting and praying. And so he showed me that the enemy had his hooks in our marriage. The enemy had his hooks in certain ways that he was attacking my wife, in certain ways that he was attacking my mental and the viewpoint that I had against my wife. But it took that 40-day fast to break the hold, to break the chains and what he was producing in our marriage. And so I say that, and I give this testimony just for you listening, because you feel like things ain't changing, because you feel like he's still acting the same, because you feel like she just don't get it. Well, maybe you need to get your flesh off of display. Maybe you need to go fast. Maybe you need to be like Jacob and wrestle with God until he breaks the strongholds off of your marriage, until he changes your perspective so you can give your person a clean slate. The Bible says the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. And so there are a lot of us that oftentimes try to fight battles in our flesh, try to fight battles in our own strength and our own will, when the battles need to be fought in prayer, when the battles need to be fought on our knees, surrendered to the altar, so God can have the final say and so he can get the glory out of the situation.
Wow, that's powerful right there. There's nothing prayers cannot do. There is nothing fasting cannot do. Most times we just need to rely on God. Hey, God, fix this. Hey, God, do it your way. There is no way God will not show us directions or what to do, how to do it, whether it's difficult or not difficult. God will definitely show up when we go in praying and fasting.
Absolutely.
Man.
I love this. Like, he is setting a great example of what a true man of God should do and be about.
Yeah.
We need more men like this, and have understanding that sometimes us women, we are very emotional and we mouth off and stuff like that. And instead of him getting up so upset, he decided to fast and pray. Both vice versa. Women, need to fast as well for their marriage. And let's not even just talk about marriage. We can talk about any situation. Yeah. When you know that the enemy is playing with your emotions, playing with your health, playing with your children, playing with anything, it is key to pray and fast. I was looking in the Bible and noticed that it's not even there in the NIV version. They took it out completely. But it's in the King James version. They took verse 21 out. Like, that is crazy in the NIV. So what is that showing us is that verse and that instruction that God gave us concerning fasting and praying, the enemy don't want us to know the truth. Yeah. So let's continue to do that.
I love this, even in a lot of areas. A lot of areas, your business, the plans that you have, your working place, like every area of your life. Very important. If you don't understand what's going on, if it just giving you headache, like the direction that you thought that God wants you to go is no more going that way, go in fasting, yes. Go in prayers, yes. I don't advise people when they need money to go in fasting. When you need money, you pray and ask God for the right way, right direction, but when it's so heavy, there's a spirit attached to this. Go in fasting. And spirits, devil, they hate when you are in fasting, because they know what goes on in the spirit realm when somebody sacrifices something to God, sacrifice time to God, sacrifice not eating to God. The spirit, they know what that is. And that's why in a lot of churches, you don't see them asking for fasting. Let's go in fasting for this year. Let's do this. Not just quoting let's fast for, and they're not fasting. No, because if you go in the book of Isaiah, you see the direction that God will want us to go when we are fasting, because it's something so important to God. Fasting, when you say, okay, I'm going to fast, God takes that serious, and God want to see you being serious with it. Call it out and stand on it. He said, I'm searching for a man. I'm looking for a man that will stand on a gap. When you stand on a gap for fasting, there is nothing impossible with God.
I like how you brought up Isaiah. I think it's Isaiah 58, but I could be wrong. But if you really know the correct way of fasting, because some people just don't eat and just pray a little bit and just keep it like that. But you have to be really dedicated. You got to make sure you're not even arguing, fighting with people while you're fasting, even after fasting.
Yeah.
God takes that very serious. And I think we all should, consider it.
Yeah.
Consider it because it also gives you more power and strength.
Yeah.
Like when I fast and pray, I do receive more dreams because I'm focused on God. Like I get more dreams, visions. I'm more dedicated to what I need to hear from the Lord. It's really good.
It is.
Thank you so much for watching.
We love you guys.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.